The Market Theatre, in fact, in partnership with the City of Johannesburg and Arts Alive, have commissioned a new play, Lala Ngenxeba, which aims to introduce audiences to the life and times of the former PAC leader Robert Sobukwe through critical history moments alongside his prison letters to his wife, Veronica Sobukwe. So the production sets out to really just show how Sobukwe's love-centered response to oppression fueled his fighting spirit against oppression as well as racial injustice. And this morning in studio, we're joined by award-winning playwright, author and director Palesa Mazamisa, as well as actress Pulane Rampoana. Good morning to the both of you, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
I mean, we were offlining the conversation and just taking in the significance of these two figures and how important it is to keep our history and stories alive. What did this mean for you, for the both of you, immersing, re-engaging in the spirit of their life and times?
Well, I feel like actually it's about time we started telling these stories. It's about time. Our history, our political history in South Africa is, I feel like it's one-sided. It's not told enough. There were so many struggle stalwarts. There were so many people that were standing and fighting for this so-called freedom that we think we have today, which is not necessarily freedom, but if you know what I mean. There were so many people that were involved in that, but their stories are not told. Their stories need to be told.
Yeah. What did it encompass for you?
You know, what's interesting for me is that we tend to focus on political figures, and we forget that they have partners in this struggle as well. So what I really appreciate with this play is that we're not only talking about politics through Robert Sobukwe's eyes, but we're also trying to look at what did it mean for the wife and the family as well.
I want to delve into that because looking at the themes, I mean, if we know about his history, the isolation, the Sobukwe clause as well, the separation, the loneliness, the at times desperation as well. Talk to us about some of those private moments that they would have shared. And then I want to come to how you would have had to play that out.
Well, you can imagine that he was isolated to the extent that no one was allowed to speak to him. So not even other prisoners. He was separated from everyone. So you can imagine, what does this do to the person's psychology, to them emotionally? It's a form of torture on its own, and that's something that is explored in the play as well.
Lani, how would you have gone about in terms of character development, immersing yourself in those experiences and having to relive it and bring it back to life?
I actually had to watch a lot of stuff about Mama. Some of the interviews when she was with Tata Mandela. I listened to some of the stuff where the grandkids were talking about her during her funeral. And I also had to think back to some of the people that are in my life that had been a part of the struggle, because I've got those type of people, and what they may have gone through. And I had to take from that to create what she would have felt, what she would have gone through. It's almost like every woman in South Africa, the struggle that the women are going through, the struggle that the women that were standing beside those struggle stalwarts were going through. So for character development, I really had to, I really had to go back in and find and research what did these women go through when these men were fighting. Like any woman would have to go back on the inside and go like, what would it have felt like to fight so much for somebody that's out there and you're not even sure if they're coming back or not.
And what does love mean in those circumstances, right, as well? I'm thinking to your point about fighting and not knowing whether they're coming back. Upon meeting and getting married, I mean, and him returning post the Sobukwe clause of 6 years of isolation. I mean, Mum, Veronica only passed away in 2018, but Mangaliso would have passed away in 1978. So I mean, there was such a huge gap as well. But obviously, her having to live in that and keeping his memory alive. What are some of those gems of information, tidbits that you would have picked up for the both of you upon researching that you could divulge, something we didn't know?
One very interesting thing for us was how much the two of them loved to dance. They loved dancing.
Yes.
And even in some of the interviews, the grandchildren talk about, oh, my grandmother used to love dancing. And so we tried to even weave that into the story as well, because that's not something you would think. Like,
No.
oh, Robert Sobukwe and his wife dancing.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, he was a lawyer, right? He was an
Yes.
activist. Ma'am Veronica, we often not told about her personality, except that she was a
Yes.
nurse, and
Yeah.
that's how they would have met. Yeah. What type of music was it? Or what comes to mind for you, Pulane?
Sorry, I just thought during our opening, I spoke to some of the PAC members. Actually, there were these other two guys that are twins, and whose father was actually with Sobukwe in one of those iconic pictures. And they were telling me about her, and they were like, she had to take a step back so he could be in the forefront, and she fought from the back. And that was such an interesting thing for me. Like that was profound.
And that's that love story, right? Because I mean, a sentence has words and letters, but for it to make sense, you need the space in between. So to have the wisdom to understand that is probably also, it's having to dig deep. Time is up, but before we go, perhaps you could just speak to what you want the audience to walk away with. And at the Market Theatre, when is it showcasing? How should people emotionally prepare for what they're about to encounter?
well, first of all, we also are part of a festival called Kasakamba. So we'd love for people to come through, not only to come watch our show, but also to attend the other events around the Pan-African Festival. The show runs until the 8th of December, and tickets are available on Web Tickets, or people can go just on the Market Theatre website.
Okay,
Yes.
awesome.
And-
What would you want people to walk away with as we wrap up?
They have to understand that this is a history lesson, but this is delving into somebody that was so big, whose history has been put down, but we are uncovering the love that he used to lead.
And the story continues. Thank you to the both of you for
Thank
joining us
you.
at this
Thank you
hour
so
and for being part of that historic storytelling. Palesa Mazamisa as well as Pulane Rampoana talking to us about the play. It's called Lala Ngenxeba. Reminds us really about the love and resistance, how that can fuel transformative change as well, of course, looking at the lifetimes of Veronica and Robert Sobukwe.